Along with Hal Mumme, Mike Leach transformed offensive football across the country at all levels and gave Division I defensive coordinators absolute nightmares. His locker room rants and post-game press conferences were legendary and hilarious. Never one to hold back, always honest and funny as hell. That was the pirate, Mike Leach. I would absolutely love to get Leach's take on the current state of college football with the transfer portal and the NIL. It would be gold. In 2016, I had the opportunity to watch the Washington State University offensive machine in person and Leach in action, and it was classic Mike Leach. This is QB Unfiltered, and this is Flashback Friday. I've always been a fan of the Christmas holidays, and one of the highlights for me has always been our family's trip down to San Diego to spend time with the in-laws. And the highlight of that trip every year is going to watch the Holiday Bowl practices. And some years have been more memorable than others, but it's always been fun, and it's always been interesting and a learning experience to watch how some of these Division I teams practice for bowl games. And I was always in the know with having the intel to tell me where these teams were going to be practicing and what times they were going, so on and so forth. And in 2016, I was totally fired up that Washington State University and Mike Leach was going to be coming down to the Holiday Bowl to play the Minnesota Gophers, Golden Gophers. And the only problem was nobody knew where they were practicing. At least none of my contacts did. Maybe a day before they were to begin their practice, I finally tracked it down by talking to a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy, and found out that they were practicing at San Diego Mesa College, which is a junior college in San Diego. And I got the time, and so I was fired up, and off I went. So I rolled into the stadium parking lot about 10 minutes before practice starts, and to go into the stadium, you're on an upper level. You walk into the stadium, and then you walk down the stadium stairs, and the field is down in a bowl. So I walked about halfway down, and I sat right on the aisle, and I was just going to sit there for a little bit and get the lay of the land, figure out where Leach was going to be, where the quarterbacks were going to be, so on and so forth, and then I was going to move down to the field. Now, before I go any further with this, I'd like to say that every year that I went to Holiday Bowl practices, I saw some great up-close and personal coaching. Rick Neuheisel with the University of Colorado one year was just awesome. Arizona State University, one of my college teammates at Idaho State, Dirk Cutter, was the head coach. And he and I were able to just cruise around the practice field the entire practice and just shoot the shit, which is really cool. But one experience was really funny. I went and watched the Oklahoma Sooners with Adrian Peterson, and they were practicing at San Diego State University. And their quarterback coach was Chuck Long, the great quarterback for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And Chuck Long, literally 2 months before the Holiday Bowl, was at Santa Rosa Junior College, where I was the head coach, and met with me in the weight room to talk about a couple of my players. And so I'm on the field and I'm walking around and I'm checking things out. And I'm going to say this about Oklahoma. They blew me away with their travel party. They rolled into San Diego State with 3 full semi-trucks, wrapped in OU football stuff. It was really impressive. They brought their sleds, their chutes, all the equipment that San Diego State obviously would have there at their disposal, but Oklahoma brought their own stuff. So it was a big deal. So anyway, I'm walking the field and I'm checking things out, and I see this, let's call him an administrative assistant, maybe with a OU golf shirt on, that comes walking up to me, and he says, Coach Stoops would like you to leave. He doesn't want anybody on the field. I'm like, are you shitting me? And he wasn't. So I'm walking off the field with this guy, and I walk right by Chuck Long, who's drilling his quarterbacks. And I looked at him, went like this, and he looked at me and just went like this. And so I got booted off Oklahoma's practice field. So anyway, here we are, Washington State, and I'm in the stands, and they start practice, and things are popping, and they're organized, and I'm looking around, and I don't see Mike Leach. He's nowhere to be found. And this goes for maybe 15, 20 minutes, and the head coach, the Pirate, Mike Leach, is not in the stadium. And they're on cruise control with their practice, very organized. Obviously they can run the show without the head guy being there, although he does call and run the offense himself. But they hadn't gotten into any offensive work yet, like 7-on-7 or team or any of that stuff. So about 20 minutes into practice, as I said, I was sitting on the aisle. I could hear the steps coming down the stairs to the left of me. And as this figure walked by me, I turned and looked up, and it was Coach Leach. And he looked at me and just nodded at me and kept on going. And so when he got down on the field and they moved to different drills and stuff, I went down on the field also and just kind of shadowed the quarterbacks. And, the one thing about Leach is he has always been totally, totally open with what he does, and more than happy to help coaches with his offensive system and practice drills and format and all that. I can remember I called his offensive line coach when he was at Texas Tech and asked if I could get some cut-ups of their stick concept and their mesh route. And in the mail, like a week later, there was a package about this thick that had like 10 VHS tapes in it with broken down into like stick. There was another one that was mesh. There was another one that was Y corner and Y cross. There was another one that was inside zone and draw. There was another one that was the screen game. Awesome. Totally cool. I mean, an open book, and I always appreciated that about him. And I knew that I wasn't going to be kicked off the field when I got down there. So I'm down on the field and I'm cruising around, and these guys, they've been playing now for about 3 months, and they are dialed in. And the one thing that I've always said with coaching the quarterbacks is you don't want to fill their head up with a bunch of unnecessary bullshit. You make sure that they're getting coached on the things that they absolutely have to know. And if they're not totally screwing things up, just stay out of their head. And so there wasn't a whole lot of dialogue between him and his quarterbacks the entire practice. And those guys are throwing darts all over the place. And obviously we're running the show, like a well-oiled machine. But there wasn't a lot of coaching going on, and there really didn't need to be a lot of coaching going on. So we're getting now towards the end of practice, and they had just finished the drill called routes on air. They call it routes on air. I call it routes on cans. They got done with that drill, and they went to a team 11-on-11 red zone period. And I'm standing just off the sideline, and Leach is about 10 yards in front of me, and he's a couple of yards on the field. and he's got his back to me, and he's running the offense, and they're going no huddle, so he's wagging the plays in and everything, and he's got his world famous 3x5 index card of a call sheet with his red pen, and I just started working my way towards him, and pretty soon I'm standing like right behind him, and to the point where I can look over his shoulder and read his script. And I can also hear him in the things that he's coaching up to his quarterback that's running the drill. I can hear some of the things he's talking to his backup quarterbacks that are standing by him and by me. It was awesome. And so I got a little bit closer to him, and now I'm like, I don't know, a yard behind him where I'm looking over his shoulder and reading his script. Leach. He wags in a play, and he notices that there's someone standing behind him. That's me. And he turns and he looks at me. He doesn't say anything. He just said, screw it. And he turned back and kept on watching and coaching. And that was pure Mike Leach. It was totally, totally awesome. And what a great experience. College football really misses that guy. And he was just a innovator and funny, and his teams were fun as hell to watch play. That is the late, great Mike Leach, the Pirate. And that's Flashback Friday. This is QB Unfiltered. And remember, always throw the ball short to guys who can score. See ya.